Alright, here's an update on the Valiant. The tail is completed. It's on its side right now because I'm doing the ignition, but I have the tail wires on. And anytime you get low, you get a little doggy that wants to come and say hi. Alright, so tail wire's done, tail's done, pole's all done, everything's finished up back there. Inside we have a receiver mounted. I mount all my receivers in foam. I cut them out and slip them in, and then once everything's all set, I put a little foam tack on it so everything stays in place. I still have to flip the one antenna. One antenna is going to go that way in an antenna tube. The other one's going to go down that way. I don't have any of the servo wires for the flaps or ailerons installed in the clip down in the holes yet because I have to put the windows in, and I didn't want the wires to get in the way of the glue and whatnot. So that's done. I have two heavy duty switches. They feed right into the bottom of this R10 receiver. It has two XT30 battery connectors, so it has two batteries, two 2000 milliamp LiPos, both on separate switches, separate feeds right to the receiver. And the way this receiver works is it powers the receiver portion separate to the servo wires, so the receiver should always have good voltage. Running my Savox servos, high voltage, digital metal gear. They work great. They're not crazy expensive. There's one switch and the other one's mounted same way. The fuel tank is installed. I bought a 24 ounce to put in it, but that is just ridiculously big. Once you start playing around in that area, it gets a little small, so it has a 17 ounce Kuza tank. It was a bit tough to get it in there, just to get it all foamed up and whatnot. The feed, the fill, and the vent line are just sitting down here because I am going to probably put the quick filler right there because covering starts about there and goes down an angle. So right here you got a little piece you can drill into. I see other guys put it up here, but that is pretty hard to get to when you use the screw-through Kuza ones because you have to get to the nut on the back side. If I was just using a fuel dot that used screws on the outside, you'd be able to put it up there, but most of my planes I put them low. I also have the Kuza bulkhead fitting. Actually, they're sitting right here. So that is the fuel dot. It comes apart. And then this is the vent, which is a bulkhead fitting, this vent line. I was thinking of putting the vent line in this bottom cover here, but then I have to deal with a hose every time I take the ignition battery out to charge it. For the ignition, I'm going to run 3500 milliamp LiPo, 2-cell, and like I said, the receiver is powered by two 2000, so the receiver has 4000 milliamps. I just mounted the OptiKill, that's where it's going to go. The LED for the ignition on is just going to go up, and I'm going to put it into the bulkhead where the firewall is, so you'll just have to look in the canopy to see if the ignition's on. I just got the zip tie in place for the ignition. The ignition will sit in there. The ignition sits in there nicely once I have it all foamed, wrapped in foam. I was just contemplating what I'm doing for the battery. The battery is going to go from here to here. I have a piece of Velcro I'm going to put on to the firewall and Velcro on the battery so it doesn't slip around. And then I have two different types of Velcro, like hook and loop strap that I was going to have to feed through this one to that one. I wish I had done that before I put the tank in because this is the bottom foam for the tank and it's a bit tight, but I can just push it with my finger and run it through. So that once that's completed, I can move on to doing the engine. I have the fuel line run through, fuel filter, and that is the control rod tube for the throttle. So the Valiant's coming along, and I also have the big 6-inch tires, Tundra style tires. So the big Valiant's coming along, and then it will be time to get the engine back on. So this is what I was talking about before, how the engine muffler bolts had rattled loose. So I've lost 3 of them. And it loosened up off the engine. So like I said, I'm going to moto seal all the surfaces, Loctite, and reinstall them. And I hope this doesn't keep happening, because I will have to remove the engine every time, because I can't get to these bolts here because they go up close to the firewall. So if this keeps loosening off, we're going to switch the engine. Or, not sure what I'm going to do if the Loctite doesn't hold. Maybe I just didn't have them tight enough when I was running it up. I'm not sure. The engine is going to have to slide back slightly on the beam mounts for the cowl clearance, because right now the front of the carburetor is hitting on the cowl, and the front of the drive hub on the engine is sticking out way too far. So if you put a spinner on it, it would be sticking out ridiculous. This wing here, almost ready to go. I have the servo in. I just have to put the linkage, control arms on. Everything's done. The flap is all installed. I just have to put the flap servo in. I'm just epoxying the holder, and then it will be almost ready to fly. So the engine prop I broke it in on was a 1810 Falcon, but I also bought a APC 17.6 iMac aerobatic pattern prop, so it's a thick blade. This is the propeller they recommend in the manual, an aerobatic propeller. So I run the APC on the revolvers, and I enjoy them. I'm just not as nice looking as the wood. Fine with the APCs too. You got to watch your fingers on them flip starting, because they are quite sharp, where the wood ones are a little duller. But wood looks nice. Wood looks really nice against that, especially with a spinner. But who knows, we may go back to a wood one. I seem to be jinxed with wood propellers. As you can already tell, I cracked this one right there. So anytime I use a wood propeller, I mess it up. So that's a well-known fact. Lots of stuff scattered around. I have all the servos working, well, except for the one in the flap. Everything's going the right way. I just have to set the trims and do the rates afterwards. But tail wires, beautiful. I enjoy it. There's another doggy right there. But I'm going to get back to doing the ignition on it. And once I'm done the ignition, then we can start getting the engine. And then I'll go over to my dad's house and probably cut the cowl, and then Dad and I will get it all balanced up.